first responders break down to do when disaster strikes. First responders break down real emergencies. It's the one show you can't afford to miss. Rescue 911. Next on True Crime Network. First responders jump into action. Rescue 911. Next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a household horror. A common gardening chore turns tragic when a man is electrocuted. Rescuers must act quickly to save this father-to-be's life.
I was gonna wake up.
Then, boys watch in horror as their father falls from a cliff. It's up to his quick-thinking sons on Rescue 911.
We begin on August 10th, 1991, in the suburbs of Cincinnati, Ohio, where Connie Allen and her husband, John, were doing chores.
It was Saturday afternoon. We were having company the next day, and I wanted the yard to look beautiful. So I asked John to trim the hedges. They were old hedge trimmer, and it was falling apart, but it still worked, so he just thought he'd just use them real fast. All of a sudden I heard a grin, so I ran over and I touched his back and he just kind of fell over. John! He wouldn't respond. His lips were turning blue, and I thought he's dead. But how did he die? I almost wanted to think it was a joke, but I knew that he wasn't going to wake up. I had taken CPR before, but I was just so distraught that I couldn't even think of following the correct steps. So I decided if I screamed as loud as I can, maybe somebody will hear us and help us.
A neighbor heard Connie's cries for help and called 911. From 2 doors away, Reed Bogart also rushed over to help.
It was very scary. He's laying there and he's blue. I assume he's dead. And I didn't even know why he was laying there. I don't know CPR, but I gave him mouth-to-mouth, hoping that I could do something.
Is he breathing?
No, he's not.
When I was pregnant, we were just so excited to be having a baby. And then we found out it was twins. We were just ecstatic. It was going to be the light of John's life. That's all he could talk about. And then here, I'm thinking he's not even ever going to see him.
When we continue,
he was so blue and so lifeless that I couldn't imagine anybody coming back from that point.
There would...
Have you or love electric and gas?
Where they're found. Here's one.
Come on, John.
Lois Siegel, a registered nurse, and Sharon Burns had also heard Connie.
When we approached the backyard, we saw John lying on his back, and he looked terrible. He was so blue and so lifeless that I couldn't imagine anybody coming back from that point.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
She's 7 months pregnant. This is a time a lot of babies are born premature, especially twins. And you're thinking, she's going to go into labor if she doesn't calm down. No pulse.
1, 2.
Within 8 minutes of the call, Cincinnati Fire Department rescue units arrived on the scene, led by Captain Earl Menthouse.
I first saw the victim, he was basically clinically dead.
What do you got?
No pulse, no respiration.
Even though CPR was being applied, apparently there was not much oxygen getting to the victim's brain because his face was extremely blue. So we immediately proceeded with looking up the Heart Start 1000 semi-automatic defibrillator.
1005. Did anybody see 1001?
This Heart Start 1000 machine was put on loan to the city of Cincinnati as a test program. This machine showed that he was in ventricular fibrillation. The heart is like a bag of worms. It's beating against itself and there is no rhythm to it. So the defibrillator called for a shot.
All clear? 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 Clear?
Shot delivered.
Check his respiration, Jim. I'll check his pulse.
I kept glancing at him thinking, he's just not coming around, and he should be by now.
I got a pulse, guys. All right. All right. Very good. Keep giving some oxygen.
When they turned around and said his heart's beating and he's breathing on his own, it's like Christmas in July. It was the most wonderful feeling you've ever had. And then just started praying that everything worked out all right.
John was taken to Providence Hospital in a coma, where he was examined by emergency physician Daniel Franklin.
Though we knew that CPR had been administered early, that he had been defibrillated early, there was a chance that he would not come out of the coma.
He was able to hear me. I kept trying to take his hand and put it onto my stomach and saying to John, feel that, Molly and Mary are in there, they need you. You have to wake up. And I said, maybe if you give him a loud yell with a familiar voice, he'll wake up. So all night long, I had been yelling, John, John. And this time I yelled, John. And all of a sudden, he just sat up, turned his head from side to side, and he just smiled.
Say da 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 da. Say da da. You said it. Say da da.
The heart failure John suffered when he was electrocuted left him with no permanent injuries.
I feel very lucky. This year alone, I've been blessed with twins, recovered from a near fatal accident. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
Very clear.
What are you doing?
There's not a day that goes by now where I'll see John with the babies, and I think they could have been without us. So grateful. I'm so happy for them that they get to have a daddy like John.
In looking into the accident, it was found that John had plugged a frayed Hedstrom cord with a 3-pronged plug into a 2-pronged adapter, so it was not properly grounded. When he touched the chain link fence, he was severely electrocuted.
Had that 2-pronged adapter not been on, when he got the shock, it would have immediately turned off. Do you need something? Do you need a toy? When John was in his coma, I was promising him that he could play golf whenever he wanted, that he'd never have to do yard work again.
God, now.
She lied. It's funny because your perspective changes so dramatically when something like this happens, and you really focus on important things in life, like your family and your kids, and that's what's important to me. But I've learned that yard work really stinks. Just don't do it.
I'm so grateful to Reed and Sharon and Lois and that rescue squad. They saved John's life. That means everything to us, so therefore they mean everything to us. I had my first kiss on him.
Wasn't next. Next.
Rescue.
Oh, yeah. He fell off a cliff, Andrew.
Fell off a what?
He's injured.
Where did he fall at?
He fell off a cliff.
Have you or a family member been diagnosed with mesothelioma or any? Let's give you the. Now, in fun, free shipping.
1990, 14-year-old Jeremy Mc...
That's 1-800-379-1883.
In the spring of 1990, 14-year-old Jeremy McLaren of Charlottesville, Virginia, had learned basic life-saving in one of his high school classes. He never imagined that within a few weeks he'd be using those skills to try and save the life of someone he loved.
We had decided that we'd like to go and climb the cliff over where my dad and I and the rest of the family once lived. When we got to there, we didn't really recognize it and stuff, but it was really awesome looking. There's a little creek, and we crossed the creek, and we were running around in it. There's this huge 80-foot cliff and everything, and so then we went over to the cliff, and we started to climb and everything. My dad was looking around for a good place and found a good place and started climbing.
All right.
I didn't want to climb it because it looked too scary and steep and everything. But there was a ledge about 15 feet up, and I thought, well, I can make it up to that, and it'd be neat just to sit on that ledge and everything. I got up to about 12 feet and I decided, no, I don't want to do this. It looks too dangerous. But my dad kept on climbing.
It had been 10 years since 35-year-old Barry McLaren had been climbing.
We found a trail that just went up like a hill or something. Went and just led you right up to the top. We looked down, we saw my dad climbing. He says, I don't know if I want to go on or not, but going up sure does look a whole lot easier than going down.
Barry had been climbing the sheer rock face for nearly 20 minutes when his muscles began to cramp.
Before he's been able to climb it successfully and climb all the way up it, but this time for some reason, he said his hands were hurting and that his hands were really tired. I was watching him. He was climbing right about 5 feet diagonally from me. And I was just sitting there. I could have reached down my hand and touched him or grabbed onto a tree and helped him up or something. I freaked out at first, and I said, Dad just fell off. So we're running down the hill. I got control of myself, and so Josh was closest, so he got down there first, and he started going into shock.
14-year-old Jeremy had learned basic first aid in school and the Boy Scouts. 12-year-old Josh and his friend ran to get help.
They went over to call 911. I saw my dad. He's got this huge gash under his chin. And so I put my shirt on that and held it on there for direct pressure and everything. And checked all over to see if there were any more blood spots.
Don't get up, Dad. Don't get up. Just lay down. Just lay down. Stay still.
I was feeling a mixture of sadness and scared because I didn't know if he was gonna die or not.
Rescue. Rescue.
Oh, yeah. He fell off a cliff.
Fell off a what?
He's injured.
Where did he fall at?
He fell off a cliff.
Where at?
Over, where is it? Okay,
Is there anybody up there?
yeah, talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah, the man fell off a cliff down at Old Prairie Road.
Old Quarry.
Uh-huh.
What's the address there?
If you come to the ballpark, somebody can lead you down
The
there.
ballpark.
Uh-huh.
Okay, is there anyone there with him at this
Is
time?
anybody on there with him now? There's one of his sons with him right now.
He was pretty much cut up and twisted and bent out of shape and everything. And that's what kind of shocked me because, I mean, he just seemed so alive and everything. And then to see him so helpless, it was just sort of a shock to me.
Units from both the Charlottesville Fire Department and the Charlottesville Albemarle Volunteer Rescue Squad responded. Lieutenant Charles White was one of the EMTs on duty that day.
We were dispatched to the Cliff Rescue. At that point, we didn't know the information was vague, so we weren't aware of the actual situation that the person had apparently fallen.
I was telling him, please don't die. Everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna be home. Mom's gonna see you and everything. She'll be happy to see you.
14-year-old Corbin Snow met Fire Captain Bill Lewis at the nearest road and told him what had happened.
Lieutenant Warren and I talked it over, decided that I was gonna go ahead with the kid immediately so someone could get there as soon as we could.
Corbin and Captain Lewis hiked the half-mile to where Barry had fallen.
Right here.
What happened?
He fell off the cliff right up there.
After talking to his son, and his son explained to me that he almost was at the top of the cliff before he fell, and in my mind then, you know, the man was it was a miracle that he was even in the shape that he was in then.
His son Jeremy was there, and he was able to give us information specifically as to how his father fell, which helped us in providing the best treatment that we could. We were able to determine by the mechanism of injury that he probably had a great deal of internal injury, and we realized that he may have some spinal injuries.
He won't tolerate any of the airway. He doesn't have enough room.
Barry McLaren was rushed to the University of Virginia Medical Center in critical condition. Dr. Adam Abram was the general surgery resident on call that day.
You get air into your lungs? Okay, 1, 2, 3.
He came into the emergency room and he had obvious facial trauma, a lot of hemorrhaging from his mouth, open gaping wounds on his lower chin and on his cheeks.
Barry, take a deep breath.
Anytime you have facial fractures, the possibility of a cervical spine injury and paralysis is always there.
Barry, do you know where you are right now?
down for me.
Do you know where you are?
His mental status was slowly deteriorating. He wasn't able to communicate as well. He seemed to be losing his orientation.
Pelvis is stable, belly soft. Okay, this leg here is obviously broken. There's a bone deformity right here. Okay. Are they ready? CAT scan yet?
As soon as she was notified of the accident, Barry's wife, Mary, came to be with her husband.
He had fallen evidently on his jaw. His mandible was broken in 25 or more places, and it evidently shattered up into his face and into his forehead. The doctors came out and talked with me and got me to sign permission forms for the surgery that he was going to face that day for the bleeding in the brain.
But he is responding now.
The operation to relieve the buildup of blood on the brain was successful, but with numerous broken bones throughout his face and body and a punctured lung that led to pneumonia, Barry's life was not out of danger.
When his eyes opened, they were so filled with pain. I'd never seen anything like that before. But his eyes, you could see that there was a great deal of pain in his eyes. I never really was able to talk to him because his jaw was wired shut and they had his face all bandaged up. His jaw was still in pieces, basically. My mom and he knew sign language and they could communicate that way. Jeremy and Josh were with me. I went over to the bed and the boys were getting a little bit worried about him too because he was signing in sign language. No more pain. Want death. Want home. And I knew he didn't mean this home. He wanted to go to his heavenly home.
The pain that he was going through was so excruciating that he had just given up his will to live.
I wondered if it was right for us to ask him to stay here and suffer so much. But I knew that he needed to be here for our children, that they needed a father.
After 3 weeks in the hospital, Barry McLaren had managed to recover enough to go home. But he still was facing 5 months of painful physical therapy before he would be able to walk without crutches.
By Saturday,
evening, the pain was so severe that I really preferred the thought of not continuing, of going ahead and giving up my life. But the thing that, of course, kept occurring to me was that I didn't want to leave my wife. I didn't want to leave my children.
I think probably because my father was so strong and healthy, that's probably what helped him to get through the accident. Also, probably what helped it on was my mother's and father's love for each other. They love each other very much. I couldn't even begin to explain how much they do.
It's been a hard-fought battle to have come from near death and fought my way back. It feels to me like it was my family and I that fought our way back. And so while at the same time there's the loss of the sense of invulnerability, there's also a sense that, hey, we can do anything together.
Sorry, line at the bank took forever.
You went into the bank?
I gotta get my paycheck in.
Mine was in 2 days ago, and I never go in a bank.
What?
Wherever you are, I always know where.
In January of 2000, William Glenn Rogers was convicted of the abduction, rape, and murder of Jackie Beard. At his sentencing hearing, Jackie's mother spoke of her loss.
Jackie looked up to me more than anyone else, and I couldn't do the most important thing I would ever do in my life. I couldn't save her from a horrible situation. I cannot bring myself to imagine what she must have had to go through. My beautiful baby, scared, taken by force, molested, and then killed as a safe person.
William Glenn Rogers was sentenced to death. First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a split-second reaction. Grease and boiling water, a deadly combination.
Oh my God!
I grabbed it and the skin peeled right off of my head.
Plus, a pregnant woman takes a terrible fall. Fate lies in the hands of her son.
My mom just fell down the stairs.
On Rescue 911.
On the afternoon of June 17, 1993, in the small town of Hingham, Massachusetts, Amy Rabinovitz was home with her 3 young children, preparing the family's dinner. She was well aware that the kitchen could be a dangerous place, but on that day, she would pay a painful price for an innocent oversight.
I was making spaghetti sauce. Abby was a normal little 14-month-old girl, very much into Barney. Never moved away from the screen when Barney was on. I had to pour out the boiling water into the sink. The baby gate had broken 2 days beforehand, so I wanted to make sure they weren't in the kitchen.
Oh.
It was a matter of seconds. It was that quick and I couldn't stop the water from pouring. And then she just caught it full face.
When we continue,
I grabbed it and her skin peeled right off in my head. I was just horrified. I was scared to death. I was no loser.
Can you believe this? I flew to you.
G and blood
Shipping.
Today's world isn't.
Well,
5-year-old Benjamin was
Ideas on what to do. Emergencies.
1883.
In today's world, it's important to know how your child's school handles emergencies. You should know about policies and procedures regarding lockdowns. Discuss with your child how they practice for emergencies. Of utmost importance, talk to them about how they feel about dangerous situations and share ideas on what to do should they face one. All of this will help them. Be safe.
I heard something fall.
5-year-old Benjamin was the oldest of the family's children.
When a baby boy or a girl is burned, sometimes they can die. My mom put me in the shower, pull off the heat on her. And it didn't work. She was feeling bad.
A basic life support unit with the Hingham Fire Department was immediately dispatched, including EMT Kevin Carter.
When we first got the call, dispatcher announced the address for a child that had been scalded by hot water and grease. I knew the address right away. I grew up with the mother of the child. So right there, the level of stress and apprehension was just increased double-fold.
I grabbed it and her skin peeled right off in my head. I was just horrified. I was scared to death. I was no loser. I couldn't have handled that. There's no way. My kids are everything to me.
Kevin and his partner, EMT Michael Antone, arrived within 3 minutes of the call.
When I first looked at the child, my worst fears were realized.
I could see that she had close to 30 to 40% of her body was burned. And that's such an insult to the body. The infections alone, I feared for her life.
At one point, she just stopped crying. Dead stop. Didn't move, didn't cry, didn't do anything. I thought she had stopped breathing. I thought she just lost it completely. I thought she was gone.
I tapped her a couple of times on the bottom of her feet and kept yelling out her name, and she finally looked up to me and started crying again, wailing again, which was tough to hear, but I knew that she was breathing alright.
Because of the severity of her burns, 14-month-old Abby was transferred to Shriners Burns Institute in Boston and put under the care of Dr. Robert Sheridan.
The liquid poured down from above, and her burns were to her face, the front of her head, neck, shoulders, arms, and her whole front of her torso. About a third of her skin was gone.
In many parts of the world, even today, an injury this size in a child this age is a lethal injury.
Abby's father, Stephen, went to the hospital as soon as he heard what had happened.
There's nothing that can prepare you for walking into a burn trauma unit. The first thing is the smell that hits you.
To see her like that, all bandaged up, it was somebody else's baby. It wasn't my baby. The guilt I felt was incredible.
That Sunday was Father's Day, and that was probably my worst day, because I had come home from the hospital and I was the one sitting here by myself. The TV couldn't do anything. I had no interest in watching it or listening to radio or anything. So I pretty much just sat there and had one little light on and cried for about 3 hours.
Dressing changes are painful episodes which happen twice a day.
I cried every time I was there for the bandage changes. And I was right there. I stayed right with her for every bandage change. Never missed one.
Although Abby underwent successful skin graft operations on her shoulder and chest, she came down with pneumonia.
Her blood count was real low. So they gave her a unit of blood and they just turned everything around. It was like all of a sudden she was healed. It was like a rebirth. They couldn't believe how fast she healed after that.
On July 17th, 1993, just 4 weeks after the incident, Abby was released from the hospital. Her family threw a party to thank everyone who helped save her life.
Because Abigail's injuries were so severe, we didn't think she was going to make it. So to have her alive today, running around the front lawn of our house, is just so rewarding.
We've had some tough times, but it helped to restore a lot of our faith in humanity, to know that people do care.
Hi, Abby.
And we always tell all the kids, call the ambulance if you need it. Don't even hesitate. That's what they're there for.
So how are things going?
IRA does not have 911, but only a month beforehand, I had programmed into my speed dial phone the fire department number.
Some of the parents have found that inside helps as well.
I still feel the guilt. And I sometimes just pick her up and I just tell her I'm sorry. I wish it hadn't happened.
Medicine helps for a little while.
Right, takes the edge off.
Yeah.
The majority of burns that we see are cooking accidents or bathing accidents. 70% or so of the injuries that we see are from hot liquid.
Okay, come on, let's go.
And I always used a baby gate. While I was in the hospital, my husband went out and bought a new one, which we use faithfully every day, all day.
Hey, look in here.
Kids are not allowed near the kitchen when there's anything cooking. Abby. She's mentally 110%. Beats up on her brother and sister again. She's wonderful. Physically, she's got a lot of plastic surgery ahead of her, a lot of corrective surgery. But with her attitude, we'll get through it.
Next.
As a mother myself, I wanted to crawl through the phone and hold him and tell him that everything was going to be okay.
Do you have trouble hearing conversations? Are you constantly at as much as 3? The CIC Recharge offers superior noise reduction with CIC Mission.
Instantly calling. Amtar was home alone with her 3-year-old.
Mission Innovations. Go to mission.com right now.
On the afternoon of November 30th, 1993, Pam Tarr was home alone with her 3.5-year-old son, Joshua. In her 5th month of pregnancy, Pam was excited about having a second child. But for her, the decision to do so was not without risk.
heart condition, and after she became pregnant, they had taken her off her medication. So I was concerned about her doing laundry and stuff. I didn't really want her going up and down the stairs, just wanted her to wait till I came home, but she said she would be careful.
Joshua, what are you doing? You better not be filling that water gun up with water.
I had to put my super soaker away. Then I heard a big bang. I ran down the steps, and boom, she was laying on the floor. Mom, you okay? She had her eyes closed, but she kept saying, "Oh, Mom."
Emergency Calvert.
My mom just fell down the stairs.
She did? Is she awake?
Yeah.
Can you put her on the phone? Is that possible?
Well, I'm on the phone right now because Mom told me to call you guys.
Calvert County Control Center Supervisor Becky Waltham took over the call.
At that point, we had the address and name of the residents. We were able to start a BLS.
Medical box 305, especially Grangeville, the Tar residence.
Corporal Tommy Barrett, with the security company in the gated community where the family lives, also heard the report and headed to the scene.
We have approximately 300 some roads in here, and a lot of the houses have no house numbers. So if you're not familiar with them, you can get lost in just about any road in here.
We were trying, hopefully, to get an adult who could assess the situation better and who could maybe help him and help the mother, and in turn help us.
Do you know what their telephone number is? I forget what, Carolyn number. I don't know last name.
What is your name?
Josh.
Josh?
Yeah.
How old are you, Josh?
3.5.
3.5?
Yeah.
I was surprised that he was that young, because normally a child that young wouldn't be that articulate and think enough to make a call like he did.
Okay, you're doing real good. Yeah, see if Mommy knows what Shelly or Debbie's phone number is, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
She asked me if I knew the phone numbers, and I didn't remember their phone numbers. So I ran downstairs to see my mom. Mom, what's Shelly's phone number? What's Shelly's phone number?
Josh, what's wrong? She's still laying down? Would she talk to you?
I wasn't sure what it was that had upset him so much, but as a mother myself, I wanted to crawl through the phone and just sit there and hold him and comfort him and tell him that everything was going to be okay.
Okay, all right now? Take a
thought my mom was gonna die. That's why I was crying. That's why she told me 2 deep breaths. So it made me stop crying.
That meant the call was more serious than we had originally thought. I hoped everything was going to be okay, but at that point we didn't know for sure.
Okay, you're doing real good, okay? I want you to try to calm down a little bit. Take some more deep breaths, okay? Yeah, that helps, doesn't it? Yeah, that makes you feel better. We got someone to come and help you, mommy, okay?
Neighbor Debbie Davis, a registered nurse, had just gotten home.
And I saw the security jeep pull into Pam's driveway. I immediately got scared because she had told me that over the weekend she had passed out. So that was the first thing that came into my mind, something that had happened to Pam.
Okay, see if you see a man out front. There's supposed to be a man there. There's someone in the house now.
I heard voices in the background and knew that the officer was there. But I wanted to be there with him to let him know how good a job he had done.
Pam?
Miss Donna?
Pam, can you hear me?
I could tell that she was breathing, but she wasn't responding at all.
Pam? Pam? Pam, are you okay?
The security guard took the phone from me, and then I had to go to the neighbor Shelly's house. And looked out the window, didn't see the ambulance or my mom. Neither one of them. Or my dad. None of them.
She's got a pulse and she's breathing.
Knowing that she had a cardiac history, I was worried about the baby and whether or not the baby was getting enough oxygen and blood and everything, but of course I had no way to check that.
Pam was flown by Maryland State Police helicopter to the neonatal intensive care unit of Prince George's Hospital Center, where trauma physician Saeed Daei took over her care.
The most likely cause of her fainting was lack of circulation to the brain because of her history of heart problem.
Plugged up the diagram machine, please.
Not only we're examining her condition, also we're monitoring and checking the baby heartbeats. I see the baby moving. The sonogram showed that though there is some evidence of slowness, there is no immediate danger, and this is a transient process that went away fast.
Okay,
To prevent future problems, Pam put back on her heart medication.
no bleeding behind it.
During the 4 days Pam spent in the hospital, Joshua was a frequent visitor.
I feel so happy to see my mom. I ran to her and then I gave her a great big hug.
He ran right up with a huge smile on his face, just so proud of himself, and he just said, "I saved your life, Mommy. I'm your hero." I just smiled and said, "Of course you are. You saved Mommy and probably your baby brother."
Look inside your belly.
And that's when he found out it was going to be a boy.
8-pound, 2-ounce Jacob Tarr was born 16 weeks after the incident. A completely healthy baby.
Joshua came through when there was no other person to rely on. Makes me look at him as a little boy and not a baby anymore. It's obvious that he's growing up.
Proudly present this award in recognition of outstanding service to Joshua Tarr, their Hero of the Year for 1993-1994.
I'm gonna get the Hero of the Year awards.
Here you go, young man. Good job.
I knew I was a hero because I called 911 and saved my mommy's life.
How big's Jacob?
So big. Dad had me to be a big brother because I get to help my mom. I'm gonna teach him a lot of things before he grows up. Like, let me see here, like no hitting and no pushing. And only call 911 when they are in
Flutie and Frank Thomas. You guys look great. Once I turn 40,
Let me guess, less energy, less drive?
definitely. It's not your fault. It happens to every man. Testosterone levels drop as you age. Company 69, brace.
Maybe in time. Or a family.
When disaster strikes, first responders break down real emergencies. It's the one show you can't afford to miss. Rescue 911. Next on True Crime Network.
Step out of the car, please.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911. Next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a rescue center for pets. Be there when animals need emergency treatment.
I just thought that she was going to die.
It could be your pet that needs rescuing.
You just have to be ready for anything because you don't know what's going to come in.
Then, when teenage girls crash on the highway, a good Samaritan proves the next hero could be you on Rescue 911.
What sets hospitals apart from the rest is the deep understanding the staff has of the fears and anxiety that patients and their loved ones experience. This story is not a recreation. It's a look inside a very special medical facility in New York City, where the best prescription for pain is a unique combination of skill and compassion. An injured patient arrives by taxi at the Animal Medical Center.
People's pets, they're not just possessions, they're really members of the family. And when people call me on the telephone, they'll say, I'm Oscar's mother, or I'm Cuckoo's father.
We're giving him a bath and his, back hose snapped.
Yeah.
How much has it been bleeding since?
A lot.
It's been bleeding a lot.
Okay, a doctor will be in to have a look at your pig in just a few minutes.
You just have to be ready for anything because you don't know what's going to come in.
And who is this?
Dr. Lori Heath examines Ned, the pot-bellied pig.
And did he hit it on the edge of the tub? No, I think he put his weight on it near his back. Okay, why don't we get him up on the table?
Anytime you try to handle a pig, they'll squeal and they'll squeal loudly. If you're going to do this on a regular basis, work with pigs, you really need to wear earplugs or your hearing can be affected.
Calm down, boy. People doing that, huh?
He had indeed ripped his whole nail off his claw. I thought that we should have a surgeon look at it to determine whether or not he had the bone exposed underneath.
Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. I tried to look at him on his level and on his terms. Got a boy.
One person was at one end working on his foot, while I was at the other end feeding him. He could have cared less about it. We were worth doing as long as he had his party mix.
There was every indication that a new nail would grow back on its own as long as we could keep the open area clean.
And you don't want the infection to get in the bone, because then it's gonna lose the toe anyways, and it can become a systemic infection, and it'll never heal. So we're in a grace period, it's contaminated, but probably not infected yet. Flush it real good, and start them on a systemic antibiotic. For pigs.
When we continue,
We need to get him cooled down because he was over 106 degrees Fahrenheit. The next thing that went was his heart.
Why are so many people turning to Super Beats Crystal flavored crisp?
Get a cart, eat.
These meals took. Andrew Caballero was last.
month-old Bichon Frise, who ingested some.
Please help bring Andrew home.
When Chloe, a 9-month-old Bichon Frise, who ingested some poison, is brought in, Director of Counseling, Susan Cohen, goes to speak with her owner.
I was told that there was a very distraught woman with a sick dog and that she needed help.
Okay, what's going on?
I don't know the nature. She was fine. I got home at 5:30. I left her all day.
On the wood floor, I had used a cleaning substance. She probably licked it up. I just thought that she was going to die.
Deep breathe, okay? Yeah, that's a ticket. That's good. That's good. That's a ticket. The doctor's here. She's going to say, what's your dog's name?
Chloe.
Chloe. Hey, Chloe. It's, of course, human nature to be upset when somebody you love appears to be getting sick and maybe dying, or is maybe consumed poison. I mean, all of us would be upset.
Oh, I think it's what I found.
When tests on Chloe are completed, Anne is updated on her condition.
What we're gonna do is start her on some fluids into her veins to support her overnight. They told me that her liver had been attacked by a toxic substance and that Chloe would have to stay in the hospital, but they reassured me that she probably was going to be okay.
An injured owl found in a quarry is brought in by a wildlife preservation team.
We went out to get him, and by the next day we were noticing that he wasn't looking at things, he was tracking with his ears. So we brought him to a veterinarian, and they established that he had cataracts. She said,
Ophthalmologist Susan Kirchner examines the owl to determine the extent of eye damage.
It's all right, little guy. Birds are very, very prone to damage to the retina part of the eye. The only way that I could see his retinas was to do an ultrasound of his eyes. See, that space is not supposed to be there, and I'm concerned that that may be, at least in this eye, a detached retina. So let's do the other eye. It's okay, sweetie. The left eye had one small, it was still intact. So I thought that with a little luck, we might be able to restore at least partial vision to one eye. I'm very happy that they had found Bartimaeus because his chances for living in that quarry would have been nothing.
Within 2 hours of being brought in, Ned the pig is ready to go home.
We flushed it with an antiseptic solution and put a bandage around it. He should come back tomorrow for a 24-hour recheck and let us evaluate it at that time. It's pretty much stopped bleeding, and I don't think you'll have a problem with it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you guys will probably order lots of party mix now.
Some days are very sad and you're on an emotional roller coaster constantly. So when something nice happens or something funny and comic, it's always nice, especially when it turns out so well.
Arnold, a 5-year-old English bulldog, is rushed into the emergency room.
He was having so much difficulty breathing, and he was starting to turn a little blue.
Dr. Laurie Gordon is in charge of his care.
He collapsed just as we got him back to the prep room.
Somebody get in the mask.
Is he breathing at all? Let's get him intubated.
It's gonna be line, liver, laryngoscope. Okay, you got it in?
Yeah, it's in.
get some nice cool fluids. Let's get a bag of.
We need to get him cooled down because he was over 106 degrees Fahrenheit.
Can you get a bowl of cold water while you're doing that? Can I have another bag of fluids, please?
Despite our getting oxygen into him as soon as possible, the next thing that went was his heart. We tried cardiac resuscitation to try to start the heart again.
Is he getting oxygen?
Yeah, we have another line. Stand up.
Any pulses? Is there anything getting through? Let's wait on the opening.
Okay.
Come on, Al.
We could not get a normal rhythm back.
You got a pulse? No. I think he's got anything. He's got nothing.
He's fixed and dilated.
After working on Arnold for 20 minutes, doctors pronounce him dead.
We literally say goodbye. Goodbye, Arnold, pet him, and mentally wish him well. Just like a human. No one likes to lose a patient.
It's not, I'm afraid, in this state.
What?
I'm afraid we
He's
couldn't.
dead?
He's dead.
He
yeah.
dead?
He's died, yeah.
It's not just the animal, it's the person who owns them too. There's a lot of emotion involved.
My coffee started to bleed. He's dead.
These are best friends. These are creatures who give love back unconditionally. They're always there to love you.
It won't be too tough for us to know whether he can see better.
Dr. Kirshner performs the delicate eye surgery on Bartimaeus the owl.
This bird has had some trauma to the inside of the eye, so that there are a lot more little rips and tears than usual, so I'm going to have to kind of work around those. It was a long surgery because he has some other damage in his eye that we had to take care of. Birds have very different cataracts in texture, like curdled milk, and it makes it a little bit more difficult than it would be in another species. We were just going for that small chance that we could give him a little bit of sight. Even if he is not able to see well enough to go completely free, I'm at least optimistic that he will see light and dark, and will be able to see the sun, and we'll basically just follow him from here. He's hanging in there. He's a good, strong bird.
Hello, hi Barbara.
Down the hall, Susan calls Barbara Tate to comfort her on the loss of her bulldog, Arnold.
Yeah, I heard about Arnold, and I just called to see how you're doing. I was totally taken back. I didn't think.
It's nice to have somebody understand that it's really like a member of your family.
I've had dogs over the years, and he was the sweetest dog I ever had. He was also the dumbest.
And unless you have somebody you can talk to that's lost a pet that loves a pet, people that don't have pets just think you're nuts. You miss Arnold? When she was a little tiny puppy, Arnold just fell in love.
You care?
Arnold thought we had brought home a little wind-up toy for him to play with. And so Arnold just followed the dog around the house wherever he went. We were a little worried because Arnold was so big and clumsy, I thought he was going to step on her. So sometimes we would lock her up in the crate just to keep her safe. And Arnold would just lay on his belly outside the crate and look moon-faced at this dog. Arnold was unique. No dog was ever like Arnold. He was just so sweet.
After 2 days in the hospital, Chloe has recovered enough to be released.
I do miss her dearly, so.
Chloe.
I'm grown very, very attached to her. She's like a child. She relies on me for everything, so you feel very needed. I'm fortunate to have an animal hospital in New York City. I know if the animal hospital weren't here, I don't know if Chloe would have survived.
6 days after Ned injured his foot, he's healed enough to once again enjoy the things he loves most.
Occasionally we'll take him out for a walk and he'll graze and whatever.
He's found some grass, sure.
He's very affectionate. He likes people a lot. Just me having him around.
He's always getting his stuff, and always has to be on my lap if I'm sitting down. He's my baby.
We have a very powerful response to animals. They're completely accepting of us. They're never going to get up and read our diary to the whole 5th grade class. They're never going to make us stand in the corner because we flunked algebra. They're never going to take the car away because we put a dent in it. They think we are terrific exactly the way we are. And I wish I had $1 for every person who sat across from me and said, this is the only person in my whole life who has ever really loved me just the way I am.
Next.
Jamie was a very careless driver. She drove much too fast. She never would wear her seatbelt.
Don't let heat shut you down. Do more with the coolant from your...
Now you can pay only
Yet on the afternoon of October 17th,
Can Get Topic in stores, but this TV offer is only available by going to gettopic.com.
We begin on the afternoon of October 17th, 1991, in Stillwater, Oklahoma, as 17-year-old Jamie Scavona and her best friend, Heather Walter, were heading home from a local shopping mall, along a route they had traveled many times before.
Kids do not realize that when they get behind the wheel of a car, that they take not only their life, but other lives in the palm of their hand. That sounds good. Jamie was a very careless driver. She drove much too fast. She never would wear her seatbelt. She was driving down I-35, and she was not paying attention to what she was doing.
I remember rolling, I don't know how long. I remember coming to a rest and thinking I didn't want to move. I just wanted to lay there because I was in so much pain. And I started looking around and Jamie wasn't there. And then I saw her hand come up from under the truck. That scared me to death because it was all bloody.
Mark Gardner was on his way to catch a plane when he saw the truck crash.
I run across the freeway and I seen a teenage girl crawling out of the passenger side. Lay down. Out of the corner of my eye, I seen the other girl and the truck was laying on top of her. She was bad. I mean, if I didn't do something, she was gonna die because she could not breathe. I pictured my daughter under that truck and it scared me. I was just gonna try to lift the truck a little where she could breathe. But when I started up with it, I just kept on going. I don't know if it was just fright, adrenaline, or what, but I did it. She was having a real hard time breathing. It sounded like she was drowning in her own blood.
By this time, other people had also stopped to try and lend a hand.
I had to help her, but I didn't know what to do. And I kept asking, does anyone know anything about first aid? Everyone kept telling me no. Anybody know first aid?
One of the passing motorists used his mobile phone to call for help. From more than 15 miles away, rescue units with the Guthrie Fire Department were dispatched, including EMT Chuck Bircher.
That's kind of a bad zone, isn't it? It's a long ways off. The response time is lengthened by going there. It's usually just not very good news when you go up there. I was reassuring her to just hold on and relax. And then she quit breathing on me. There was one man in the crowd. And he said, well, it look like she's going. And I looked up at him and said, by God, she ain't, because I'm not going to let her go. I didn't know anything about first aid, but I watched Rescue 911. And I held her nose, and breathed into her mouth like I'd seen on TV. She responded by giving me a big old I didn't know if I was going to have to do it again, but I was relieved to know that she was breathing again.
I could hear her and trying to breathe. I was concerned because I knew she had asthma really bad. So I told the people that she needed her inhaler.
Some lady in the crowd had got her inhaler. I'm about to give her an inhaler because I don't know what the inhaler does.
Within 8 minutes of the accident, an Oklahoma Highway Patrol trooper arrived on the scene.
I asked the police officer, I said, can you talk to the ambulance? Ask them, can I give her some inhaler?
The trooper radioed to the medic unit en route and spoke with EMT Michael Conner.
I told him that it would be fine to use her inhaler, but I wanted him to monitor her use. I didn't want her using it excessively. It's a life-threatening situation. People have died because of asthma attacks.
Jamie? Can you hear me? Went to the police officer and told him, I've got to catch a plane in 35 minutes. I've got to go. I left my address, phone number, and I was gone.
Very respiratory distress. Her lips were a little blue. She was getting any air movement at all. She was having a big-time asthma attack.
17-year-old Jamie Scavone was taken to Stillwater Medical Center, where she was examined by emergency physician Douglas Quincy.
Her chest x-ray showed that she had a collapsed lung and was not moving air because of her asthma. Those two things were responsible for her breathing problem. And she had multiple other problems, left collarbone fractures and a left knee laceration and injury, and blood in her urine, confirming a severe trauma to the abdomen.
Jamie was hospitalized for 2.5 weeks. Today, despite her asthma, she's in good health.
If she had stopped breathing for several seconds, it was reasonable to assume that she was in the process of dying. And his rescue breathing probably did play a role in saving her life. That and removing the truck from her.
I pretty much owe everything to him if he had showed up. You know, I wouldn't be here today. To me, he is
I feel that I gave her back something that was fixing to be taken away from her, and it made me feel good. Hey, we buddies now. That's the way New Zealand's don't always wear black.
He and Jamie have developed a bond that nothing will ever change. I'm really, really glad that he was on I-35 that day.
I feel like I've been given a second chance, and I learned to value life a little bit more, take things a little more seriously, wear my seatbelt and don't drive so fast.
I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to get into first aid. That's fixing to happen. I'm fixing to go work on the dummies. Yeah. I learned a big lesson. Don't be afraid to stop and help. You can make a difference.
My finances are very out of control.
Having a family and a finances is a tough balance tonight.
You're sitting here at the end of the month looking at all the bills thinking there's got to be a better way.
Introducing the NetSpend Prepaid MasterCard. There's no credit check and no cost to order.
I dedicate my life to helping people achieve their potential and discover the tools to make that happen. That's why I'm excited to tell you about the NetSpend Prepaid MasterCard. This, my friends, is more than just a card. Use it anywhere debit MasterCard is accepted. You can use it to shop online, pay bills, buy gas. And get this, with NetSpend and direct deposit, you could make a purchase. I got this.
Call now. There's no cost. order and no credit.
This is gonna be the last, Rescue 911 episode tonight.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency? Today on Rescue 911, cops in the line of fire. A routine stop takes an unexpected turn for police. Plus, volunteers search for a little boy buried alive.
I said, I know he's at the bottom of the snowbank.
I thought the young boy was dead. On Rescue 911.
Though tragedy is uncommon, at any moment, routine police work can take an unexpected turn, as partners Tom Blackshear and Gary Kaufman were reminded on the morning of October 10th, 1994, in Phoenix, Arizona.
Police work certainly makes us aware of our mortality and the mortality of our loved ones. It is in the back of your mind, but it has to be in the back of your mind or you couldn't function.
Tom and Gary were checking out some of the businesses in the area, and when they happened to be driving by a rental storage business, they noticed a car and a couple of individuals that were acting very suspicious.
Hey Gary, go around the block, I want to take another look at that car. That didn't look right.
When they came back around the block, the car was turned in the opposite direction, and Gary and Tom felt that they had done so in order to keep them from seeing their license plate on the car.
You want to go check them out? Let's check it. 774 Adam Code 6, Western exposed a couple subjects.
A code 6 means that the officer is going out for investigation. Usually it involves some type of suspicious activity.
When we continue.
We prepared for this job and everything, but I never really knew what scared to death was until this happened.
Why are so many people turning to Super Beats crystals? Because Super Beats crystals give you the energy side boost. Now how to get a
Repair?
We put the exact.
Where? Machine one.
We didn't do anything wrong.
West Indian School, as says an officer is down, as it came in as a shooting.
Phoenix Fire Engine 18 immediately sent to the scene, led by Captain Paramedic Charles Hood.
Anytime you get a shooting, you're always geared up as far as working a trauma type patient. But with it being a police officer, that hits close to home. When the cop gets shot, our wheels spin just a little bit faster.
Officer Gary Kaufman's wife, Mary, a 911 operator, was on duty that morning.
You think a police officer does that? Here we saw two gentlemen running out of a storage unit shooting.
Immediately, Gary flashed us through. Where's my first thought was, where's Gary at?
Okay, stand on level like an officer's going, okay? Okay.
Another girl was setting up next to me, and I said to her, Amy, find out where Gary and Tom are.
Radio, this would be for North Chase, incident number 43, she thinks there's been a shooting at 23 West Indian School Road. They put it out at the 999 when we're going. Okay, do you need more information from her? I think probably we've got it. Okay, thanks. All right.
I was so glad that they didn't need any information because my hands were shaking.
Okay, ma'am? Yeah, okay, we've already got a call in on this thing.
Hey, Mary? She said, well, Gary and Tom were at a traffic stop at 23rd Avenue and Indian School. And I look at my screen.
Tom was laying down by the fence, obviously hurt.
Tom Blackshear was a 15-year veteran of the force.
My idea at the time wasn't even first aid. I just wanted to get away from these people.
Come on, keep talking.
He's telling me, hey, I've been hit, my arm's burning, it's on fire, my arm really hurts.
I left my gun over there. Where? My gun. All right, get my gun.
I never really knew what scared to death was until this happened. We prepare for this job and everything, but you never really think anybody's gonna get hurt.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
He was fading in and out of consciousness. And he said, I feel like I might be hurt down here a little bit or something on his left chest area. And so I looked down there and I could see his shirt was torn. It was like right by his pocket.
Oh, be careful, my.
There was still a piece of the round stuck in the vest.
Just keep talking to me, Tom.
And the hole in his chest was like the size of a dime or a nickel. I knew he wouldn't die from an arm wound. But when I saw the hole in his chest, I knew that was very serious. Very serious. Well, there's people there I haven't seen in 3 or 4 years. They were coming from everywhere. It was such a relief to see somebody that you knew.
It was pretty chaotic. There were officers frantically waving us over. They hadn't caught these 2 suspects, so it's a tense situation.
Okay, deep breath, all right? Short of breath? Okay, okay, one more time, deep breath.
Out of all the shoes I've ever had, I can't remember anyone actually wearing a vest, but there was a significant amount of trauma done, even with the vest on.
Open your eyes for you. Open your eyes outside. He's been shot in the chest and once in the left arm.
While officers searched the area for the suspects, Tom was taken to St. Joseph's Hospital and Medical Center, where he was treated by trauma surgeon Dale Stanford.
Deep breath, Tom.
The injury to his chest was a blunt type of injury from the impact of the bullet hitting his vest. Unfortunately, the wound was not sucking, so he had no penetration in the chest wall.
Clear bilaterally, we need chest x-ray.
If he had not been wearing his vest, he had a lethal injury. The chest wound would have penetrated his heart area. The vest saved his life.
Tom's wife, Patricia, joined him as soon as she was notified of the shooting.
He was in a tremendous amount of pain, especially in his arm. I was trying to find a place to touch him because his arm was bandaged, his chest was bandaged, and of course he had IVs and things all over him. But I was assured because he was talking, he was awake. I knew that he was all right.
There is no substitute for the bulletproof vest. You don't have a second chance to go put it on. You're either wearing it or you get hit. And I did it as kind of a last minute thing. Something told me to put the vest inside my shirt. That was the smartest thing I ever did in my life.
What did hit you? I can't even describe the feeling when I got home that night. I have 2 little boys and a little girl. I love going to work. And I love the people I work with, but that was the one time I questioned, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
3 months later, 51-year-old Tom Blackshear was completely recovered and returned to work. 2 suspects were subsequently arrested in connection with the shooting and are awaiting trial.
The shooting was October 10th, and my birthday was October 11th. And I had the most wonderful birthday present. My husband was alive.
See ya. It went around the rim.
Tom and I do a lot of stuff together on and off the job both. We go golfing together all the time. We're good friends. I mean, you spend 8 hours a day with a guy, you tell him your worst jokes, he still laughs. 2! I mean, I love the guy. What can you say? He's my partner. I trust him and he trusts me.
Oh, it's closer than what happened.
Next,
You call it mother's intuition or what, but I just knew Frankie was buried beneath that snowbank.
Have you ever said this?
My finances are very out of control.
Does this sound familiar? Is how can you not?
Be one of the first 200 callers and choose your car.
more than a foot of snow near Grand Falls. In early December of 1994, a series of storms dumped more than a foot of snow near Grand Falls in Newfoundland, Canada, turning the town into a winter wonderland. But for Mona Hammond, with the storms came a frightening reminder of how fragile life can be.
Frankie! Go in and have your lunch, because Kenny's going to give you lunch, and I'm going to run down.
I love him, Frankie. He just makes my day. If you met him for 5 minutes, you'd fall in love with him. That's the way he is.
So here.
I never thought I'd have a little brother. Thought I'd be the last child. So when he came along, it was wonderful.
Around 12:45 p.m., Mona went to run a few errands, leaving her daughter, Kim Perry, in charge of her 4-year-old half-brother.
Frankie, you be a good boy for Kimmy. All right, see you later. See you.
It's actually, I babysat a lot. Made me realize I didn't want any of my own.
Kenny, can I go outside to play?
No, Frank.
Please.
Well, after you finish your lunch, okay?
He was determined. So I dressed him up, and then he went in. He's not the type of little boy that runs away or goes away on the street or anything like that.
Around 1:25 p.m., Mona returned to the house.
Frankie, Mom's home. Kim, where's Frankie to? Gone outside. How long ago did you put him out? 15 minutes ago. Frankie!
I just couldn't see no trace of him anywhere. And then I saw his footprints. The footprints led from our back door right down to the bank, and then there was no more footprints whatsoever around.
At 1:32 p.m., the call for help came into the Grand Falls Windsor Fire Department.
Bring your shovels with you?
Volunteer firefighter Vince McKenzie headed to the scene.
When the dispatcher said, bring your snow shovel, that really struck me odd. You don't fight fires with snow shovels.
So the track didn't go back?
When Kim got a hold of Frankie's father, Ed Hammond, he immediately left work to come home.
What happened?
My wife, she was sure he was down under the snow. I think, we're all couldn't believe it, really.
Check the house?
I could hear people in the background saying, well, we might never be down there. You call it mother's intuition, but I just knew he was where he was. I think they must have thought I was crazy.
Did you check the park and everything more? I think you should check the park and make sure he's not over there.
I was thinking, hoping that he was gone somewhere else, gone to his friend's place, or he was over at the park.
I checked up and down the streets all around the block, and then I went to the park. And there was no footprints, not a soul over there. And I said, I just know we're not going to find him anywhere else. I said, I know he's at the bottom of that snowbank.
More than 50 volunteers had come to help look for the little boy. But by this time, he had been missing for more than 30 minutes.
I remember really feeling for the parents. Because it wasn't actually confirmed that the child was underneath the snow. I was really hoping and praying that he wasn't there.
Frankie! I went in Frankie's room and I saw Frankie's toy. And I said, my gosh, I said, only a few minutes ago he was there playing with his toys. I grabbed hold of his teddy bear because Frankie used to sleep with his teddy bear all the time. And I just had a feeling. I just said, Frankie, just hold on for a minute. I said, we're going to find him.
Crew Captain David Byrne was a 23-year veteran of the fire department.
I really thought we were going to find a body rather than a live 4-year-old under this much snow. If not for lack of oxygen, for just weight and everything else.
Boys, hold it. Everyone turn your shovels upside down. Drive them down in the snow. When do you think you hit bottom?
But my feeling was if this little boy has any chance at all, we're going to have to find him now.
If you don't hit nothing, don't shovel the snow.
One lady said, gosh, it's been down here over an hour now. It seemed like only 5 minutes to me. I said, after an hour, I said, my gosh, he wouldn't be still breathing when they pulled him out of there.
Royal Canadian Mounted Police Officer Joe Saunier was among those searching for the boy.
I was at the bottom of the hill. I put the shovel down and it struck something solid.
Right here, right here. What? Yes, something. Yes. Come on, right here, guys. Here, come here. Where's get back down? Use your hands, guys. Come here, now, hurry. Right here.
We're digging about a foot, 2 feet, and then all of a sudden you find his hat.
Give me your head. You know, around the body.
There was such a large area. To actually find the young fella was a miracle. But I thought the young boy was dead. I moved the snow away from his face, and then all of a sudden he blew out a puff of snow out of his nose.
Frankie had been buried for more than 70 minutes.
Come on! Come on! He's alive!
I said, oh my gosh, I said, that was he. And he said, we don't know. I said, but he's still breathing.
After he was up to the ambulance, then it really hits home, and tears came to my eyes. I thought to myself, this could have been my son.
At Central Newfoundland Regional Health Center, 4-year-old Frankie Hammond was put under the care of pediatrician Heinrich Stander.
How Frankie survived underneath the snow for that amount of time with the amount of oxygen that would have been available to him still remains a bit of a riddle.
He was still unconscious, but the doctor told us to get down and whisper in his ear. I said, Frankie, I said, Mommy and Daddy's here now. I said, you're going to be okay now.
And the 2 eyes just shot right open. It's the closest time I came to crying there when I saw him. There were the 2 eyes open up, looking at us.
Here, Mommy. Frankie. I was trying to climb up, and then all the snow fell down. Kaboof. The snow was going in my mouth so quick, I couldn't breathe. I tried to call for help, but I couldn't. They couldn't hear me. They were too far away. No!
Frankie's over it, I'm pretty sure. That was a big problem for me and the mother to get over it.
We try to forget about it, but there's not a day goes by that I don't look at that backward, don't think about how close we came to losing Frankie.
Be careful when you play in the snow, 'cause it may bury you up.
Hey guys, I've been shopping with Imperfect Foods for a few months now, and it's safe to say I'm obsessed. It's more affordable and it takes less time than going to the grocery store. Plus, we're supporting a more sustainable food system. Let me take you guys inside my Imperfect Food box. They have...
Okay, I'm gonna go to YouTube to like this video, because I like to give my own videos a thumbs up. Let's see. Okay, now I'm on YouTube. Even though I entitled this video Rescue 911 last live stream, it doesn't mean I will never do Rescue 911 streams again, but it just means it's the last Rescue 911 stream for today. And now I click live and give this button a like to say that I like this video. But now I'm going to end this live stream and I just turned my TV off because it's getting late. It's probably 10:30 at night.